So, we found ourselves in Psychedelics and Quantum Physics, hosted by the Portland Psychedelic Society. My name is Max Kellerman. I am the Executive Director for the Portland Psychedelic Society, so I'm very grateful for you all to show up and support us in this way. This means a lot to us. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and our mission is to create inclusive spaces for psychedelic integration, education, and community building. And so this is it. This is what we're doing. This is part of it. We host events like these one-off special events where we can bring special topics and guests and experts who can share their knowledge and help us make sense of what the psychedelic realm and experience may mean to us as individuals and spirits. We provide monthly events throughout the year. These come in the form of other topics as well as integration circles, so places where people can come together, whether they're new to psychedelics or long-time journeyers, just want a safe space to feel welcome and understood and meet other folks who are doing the same, having psychedelics be a part of their well-being practice, whatever that looks like for you at this stage of your life. Our moderator tonight is Julian Voss-Andrea. I'm going to pass it off to you to kick off the panel. Thank you all.
Thank you all so much. I have so many questions, but I want to open the conversation with our audience, and I might interject some questions in between.
My understanding has always been conflicted between jumping back and forth between this quantum world and non-dual world of everything is fuzzy, and that's the fundamental reality of it. But I am a consciousness in a brain, and at the level of understanding that my brain can comprehend, I exist in a classical world. And so that's sort of been my connection and interpretation of it. And I'm curious, when you take the full quantum perspective of reality through and through, from small to big, what do you then do?
Yeah, well, I would want to invoke the creative imagination. Say if you're in a dream at night and you don't know you're dreaming, which is to say you don't know your circumstance, and then say something happens and you have a lucid dream and you realize, oh my God, I'm not out of my mind, I'm inside my mind, and all of these characters in the dream are aspects, are embodied reflections of parts of me. And then say if there's not just 30, but there is 8 billion human beings and all other sentient species in that dream that you've now awakened into. What have you realized? You've realized that they're not separate from you, that they're a part of you and you're a part of them, which is to say that if any of those beings are, asleep or suffering based on not recognizing their nature, that's deeply impacting you because they are you. So then that's the whole idea in Buddhism of taking the bodhisattva vow, that, oh wow, now that I'm waking up, I've just become enlightened, but I'm not going to just disappear into nirvana. I'm going to consciously choose and help all these other parts of myself who are under the spell, as if in a fairy tale, to wake up. And I'm not going to enter nirvana until everyone else is enlightened first, because who is everyone else but my fellow brothers and sisters, parts of me. So that would be, what comes through for me.
I've been very perhaps obsessed with the symbol, the Taijutsu, the symbol of Tao, of yin and yang. And to my mind, it's the most true thing that humanity has so far divined in terms of a symbol. And it seems to speak to or refer to a lot of the same themes as quantum physics and of psychedelics. And so I'm curious if any of you might speak on this symbol and what its implications are for our time, and specifically in informing us how to live.
One thing that comes up about the yin-yang symbol is that when one quality gets to its absolute extremity, the seed of the opposite is already there. And that's really interesting to me, because in our world today, case you haven't noticed, we're having a collective psychosis, which is what Wetiko is. It's a collective madness. And we are in the process of destroying ourselves. And we're destroying the biosphere, the life support system of the planet. That evil is like, instead of hiding in the corners or in the shadows, it's out on the world stage for everybody to see in so many different ways. And I think it's really helpful. You mentioned the tension of the opposites. That's really, really important because, I mean, that's what my next book is basically about. That's our nature, is that, you know, I'll say it this way, that our nature is, you know, there's this polarity. According to Jung, the sickness of our time is the sickness of disassociation, where one hand does not know what the other hand is doing, and that this mind virus is an inner disease that plays itself out synchronistically via the medium of the external world. I mean, just think about that. Our inner condition in our psyche is literally getting dreamed up and played out through the medium of the outside world. That's a description of a dream, right? So what that points to is, to the extent that any one of us can hold that creative tension of the opposites without splitting, without disassociating and identifying with one and projecting out the other, but hold that creative tension, which can be an agonizing experience. Out of that, Jung says, comes the transcendent function, or the reconciling symbol. It's not something we invent with our conscious mind. It's like a revelation, okay? But each one of us, any one of us holding that creative tension, what Jung says is very interesting. He goes, if you have a glass of water and you have grains of sugar and dissolve the sugar in the water, they will dissolve one by one into the water, and then it reaches the saturation point. You add one more grain of sugar and a crystal manifests. He says that's the way symbols manifest in our unconscious, okay? And any one of us having realization of the dreamlike nature, owning our shadow, seeing the mind virus, whatever you call it, could be that grain of sugar that crystallizes an awakening in the collective unconscious, okay? And he is very fond of this phrase, anatiodromia. It's really kind of a weird word, but anyways, what it means is when something gets into an extreme state, it has the tendency to turn into its opposite. So my hope is that because our world seems so dark and dangerous, and we're like going to hell, you know, really fast type of thing, that if enough of us are able to do our work and to recognize our nature and to embody it and to express ourselves creatively, see the dreamlike nature, however you say it, doing that could be us being the grain of sugar that helps to transform that opposite of incredible darkness into the light. So that would be my answer. Yeah, thank you.
I'm not a neuroscientist or a physicist, but I know that humans don't see much, and we don't hear much, and we don't smell much of the available, you know, sight and sound and smell. Is the quantum world part of that? The things we can't see, the things we can't hear, the things we can't experience through our senses? Is it related to that? And how do we see those things, perhaps without ingesting nootropic substances?
So I was saying imagination is I think one of the key things. If you do hypnosis, for example, you know, there's this weird thing that you sort of think, oh, I'm making this up. Oh, it's only my imagination. But it's I think it really is our way of sensing that world. You know, it's if you look at the cosmovisions of the people in the Amazon basin, and they talk about the spirit world, and they analyze their dreams, and they sort of, when they talk, they live in this world. It seems very much one thing, and that's my sense that this has to do with that. But what do I know?
I was really taken with the idea of ideas having a consciousness, of a collective idea kind of becoming an entity that exists that has an immune reaction. And I've been trying to grasp with our seeming return to conservative politics and fascism and that sort of thing. And it occurred to me that that might be an immune reaction to the awakening of quantum reality. That this static, fear-based consciousness is afraid of that sugar thing happening. And what do we do with that? Like, how do we counter an idea that has consciousness?
One of the things that I've learned from my own process is that the closer I get to my nature and the more I embody my light and the more I express it with my work that's actually helping people, the more it invokes the darker demonic forces, right? And whether it actually manifests in my external life or in my mind. And at first I was like, whoa, it was really easy to pathologize myself, think, wow, I must be really screwed up and I have a way bigger problem than I even thought I did. But then I began to understand, wow, no, that's a sign that I'm on the right path. Of course the darker forces would be evoked wanting to destroy somebody who's shedding light on the darkness because they would be unemployed. So I think, that's an archetypal sort of this dynamic that I think it would be really helpful for all of us who are doing inner work to really understand that, instead of when we're bringing in something, that's helpful, where we're channeling light, it's such a primordial, like we all, have, I'm victim of abuse or trauma. Well, the fundamental, from my point of view, essence of abuse is that when we actually are ourselves and express ourselves or shine our light, that it's not okay. We get attacked or people withdraw their love or they judge us or whatever, and then that becomes internalized. So for me, the key thing is, to factor into the equation, part of this realm is that, as we bring in more light, of course it's going to invoke darker forces. And then you have to understand, okay, then how do I tango with that? What do I do? Because if I then immediately polarize, well then guess what? I'm offering myself into the hands of the darker forces. So do you have,
I wanted to just mention that, give a few examples of that, of this immune effect, that this immune protection that paradigms have. For instance, the psychedelics is a good example. There was a moment of flowering with Aldous Huxley and so on, and then immediately, when it started to take hold, it became demonized and finally illegalized and stayed that way for many years. Similar things happened with parapsychology, although it was not a legal response. It was just a kind of not true skepticism, but a kind of a dogmatic skepticism that took, for instance, on Wikipedia, there are skeptics constantly, completely raising anything about telepathy or anything about like that is immediately wiped clean. So there is that, and I could bring many more examples. There is that. That's a manifestation of this immune system, of this resistance that takes many forms against salutary changes, healing changes. Even as far as alternative medicine, you also have the legal response, a very repressive response against that, which actually violates freedom of speech.
It sounds like we're at a good transition for some online questions.
Yeah, that was just going to ask
Cool.
if there's online.
Yeah, we've got a few. Thank you, online folks. And thank you, panel and live audience as well, for sticking with us here. We're going to just do a couple more as we're getting close to time. So we'll probably do about 2 online questions and do a wrap up. Does that feel good? All right. This is from Greg Eldridge. How can we begin to embody the emerging quantum paradigm in our everyday lives? So kind of a similar question to earlier. And continued, in what ways might this shift in worldview influence our ability to manifest what we desire And are there specific techniques that align more effectively with this perspective?
Yes. There is, for instance, the issue of law of attraction, where you can utilize this by focusing on something that you want in a particular way, which is like it's already happened. It's not just you idly wish for it, but you believe in it, and you can help to synchronistically bring it about. That's an example. There are trainings. There's a book by David Baer, for example, which about changing mind, in which you focus on your subconscious or unconscious beliefs, and he points out that they actually, through shaping your thoughts, which shape your emotions, which shape your actions, which shape the outcomes, which gives you feedback, which reinforces the original thing, you're caught in a loop, and he shows a way out of that loop by showing ways that you can truly change. It's not enough to say, I believe something else. You have to really believe it, and that's not easy when you have accumulated through your whole lifetime evidence that this negative belief that you had is actually true. So yeah, there are many ways of that can be utilized.
For me, I keep on circling back to the medicine for this mind virus that's killing us is to tap into our creativity. And we're all by nature creative. And for example, some people who say, oh, I'm not creative at all, I would point out to them going, you're such a creative genius that you're using your creative spirit to create the experience of not being creative. That's how creative you are. Okay, so that's our nature, because to the extent that we don't use, you see this mind virus, every tradition talks about it, every spiritual tradition, and a lot of visionaries talk about it too. And in the apocryphal text, they call it the counterfeiting spirit. It puts us on, and putting us on has a double meaning. It fools us, and we unconsciously, it puts us on like a suit of clothes so that we identify with it. And then it offers us this false version of ourselves. Oh, you're wounded, you're traumatized. And if in that moment you're not awake to your nature as pure awareness, you will then take on its version of yourself. And then it has you. Then it can manipulate you and control you. So just think about what I'm describing. This mind virus can't steal our soul, but it tricks us into giving it away. We then identify with who we're not, a separate self. We then forget who we are, creative spirit, and we disconnect from our creative agency. That's a recipe for madness, and that's, in a sense, that's the malady. This is the diagnosis for what our species has fallen under. It's like we're in a fairy tale, and our people, our population, has fallen under a spell. And then the question is, how do we wake ourselves up from it? And there's something about expressing ourselves creatively that's like, the medicine for what ails our species. Okay.
Wonderful. I've got a couple more for you. Rebecca Gear asked, do you see quantum theory, especially non-locality or coherence, as offering a possible scientific framework for understanding consciousness, particularly in non-ordinary or intuitive states?
I would formulate it the opposite way. You can understand non-locality on the basis that everything arises out of consciousness. Consciousness is one.
This one's for Julian, also from Rebecca. Do you see your art as a catalyst for transpersonal states where it bypasses intellect and evokes a felt shift in consciousness, like what people describe in meditative experiences?
Yes.
Yeah, you said yes. Do you want to elaborate or expand?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, I didn't think about this, but I just always loved beautiful things, and beauty is one of those things that, that where stuff goes right in, not into the brain, like in a Zen way. We bypass that incredible brain of ours and go directly, centrally, and that's just so much more interesting to me because it's so much more powerful. So that's what I of course want to do. Yes, for myself. These things are mostly kind of for me. You know.
Wonderful. Yeah, wonderful. All right, this will be our last one from the online audience, and I like this one. This is from Yona. To all panelists, if you had the chance to address the average layperson on a large scale, what's your elevator pitch to embrace or begin the process of discovering the quantum paradigm?
I would like to tell him, follow your heart, and love is the answer for that one.
Well, I have a more prosaic thing. I think that engaging deeply, not just reading, but actually making a practice out of various quantum, like entanglement, for example, what that implies, or what, how this creative, the nature of the creative process, which we usually think of just observing something passively, how that actually helps to bring it into thing. I think that to contemplate these things is definitely something that can bring it alive. I personally have developed a practice which is having an object and becoming one with it and then moving it at a distance. And in doing that, I actually I have immediate feedback how well I'm connecting with it, how it's kind of, it's not out there, it's actually I'm working with my own experience of it rather than with some object out there. And the more you can do that, the more it works. And that's another example.
Yeah, and what comes up for me, just real simply, is the inner, because my next book about the work of Jung, he has all these incredible phrases saying like the secret place, the inner church, this most sacred place is to be found within. It's to go within, and then I would add to really inquire into who's the observer of what you see. In other words, don't get caught in the content, even of the inner world, but who's the one who's seeing that? And that would be, I think, like my elevator pitch.
Just for the record, Julian, Jonas said that was not a good answer.
I have one more thing. Is that because this is so alive in me. One of the things that has really impacted me as I've learned about quantum physics. So quantum physics, as we've been saying, they were trying to understand what is the microstructure, what are the building blocks of this physical world. And the more they went down in scale, the more they didn't find anything having to do with matter, the more they found consciousness. And they came up with this term, elementary particles, to describe these building blocks. And what an elementary particle is, the way to understand it, imagine that it can exist in every and any potential state it ever could exist in. That's the condition of these elementary particles up until the moment that they're observed. The moment that they're observed, they actualize into one particular manifestation. All the other possibilities vaporize into parallel worlds, and the very next moment, the same thing happens again and again and again. What that means is mind-blowing, okay? Because what that means is that if one of those quantum possibilities is incredibly, highly, ridiculously, to quote this well-known physicist, unlikely, it can still happen this very next moment. What that means is that the fact that our species could wake up in time to avert the myriad catastrophes that we are conjuring up, we're like the sorcerer's apprentice who've conjured up, this apparition, this tiger, this mirage that's then going to devour us. That's our situation, okay? But when you take in what quantum physics is revealing to us, that even if it's ridiculously unlikely that our species, that enough of us, and it doesn't have to be everyone, there's the idea of the 100th monkey phenomena. It's like if you're baking bread, if there's enough yeast in the dough, the bread rises, right? Maybe it just takes one person in this moment to have realization of the dreamlike nature, to then all of a sudden, like I was saying, affect the collective unconscious, and then we can actually awaken as a species. It's like we're having a recurring dream right now. I can easily imagine that, and we've been here before, and we've blown ourselves up, and then 14 billion years, however long it takes to get to the exact same place, because in dream time, it's no time at all, and then we blow ourselves up again and again and again, a recurring dream, until we get the message. And I'm putting out the thought form, what if this is the time we actually get the message of what the waking dream is revealing to us? Because what this mind virus is showing us, it's showing us the enormous power that our psyches, that our consciousness has in creating reality. Okay, so taking in this realization, it dispels the pessimism, the despair, the depression that's so easy to fall into in this day and age where things seem really, really dark. Because if we get fixed in a pessimistic viewpoint, we're part of the problem, okay? But when you actually see and realize what quantum physics is freely offering us, it engenders this incredible hope and optimism, and then you embody that. It's not just an intellectual idea, and that is contagious. That can go viral, like the alleged COVID virus was contagious and went viral. This realization can go viral and can catalyze a global awakening. So I'm just so glad that I thought to share that. Thank you.
I want to just thank you again for this fascinating conversation. I would love to keep going, but I know we're at time. And thank you all, audience, too, for participating in this really mind-blowing discussion.
Yeah, I'll join you. Yeah, everybody, please give a round of applause for Julian, George, Paul, and Adriana. All right, thank you all.